Yo guys, Gluten-Free EDC here. I'm Brian, your gluten-sensitive representative. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so if I sound a bit off, that would be why. But today I want to share with you another of my favorite maker, David Lespect. This is a unique one from him. So for those of you that don't know, I have a few videos on his knives that I'll be releasing if I haven't already at this time. He's a French knife maker. He's been making knives since I believe about 2005. Quite a long while. I was fortunate enough to meet him at Blade Show. So a few unique things about this knife. This knife, you see the titanium here, is a titanium frame lock. Not often that you see frame locks from him. I happen to own two at the moment, or at least have two in my possession rather. And yeah, they're really cool. The action on them is amazing. I think this one might be the best action of just any knife I've ever owned, let alone of his knives. So you can see the cutout for the frame for the lock mechanism. Really cool. The clip I want to share, so yes, there are scratches there. I think it kind of goes because the entirety of the knife is acid stone washed. Really beautiful, so it makes for like a cool user. The clip actually works pretty well. Not the deepest carry. There's just enough room there that I can get the hem of like thicker jeans up all the way, so it works pretty well. You can see it rests just above, so you can click. Let me see if I could. Should be able to hear that. It really doesn't do it when I'm deploying the blade or anything. It works in and out of pocket easy enough. This is rounded enough that it's not too sharp, and when you are holding the knife, it doesn't hurt at all. It kind of just falls into like nothingness. Pretty cool. So I don't want to call this a pivot collar. It's like a disc of blue G10 that the custom pivot that he's doing by hand, as he is with the entirety of this knife, that sits atop that disc of blue G10. Really cool. He's got that on both sides. And then you have his classic style backspacer. So I think right there, that's, you could probably see it best that way. So this is blue G10 as well. It's scalloped out, so it's concave here, and then transitions to convex. The butt of the knife, really nice. Now before we get into that crazy looking blade, the action on this knife is insane. I think this might be the best action of any David Lespect folder that I've experienced, or for that matter, just any knife. You can even, because of the flat grind combined with the acid stone wash, you can easily middle finger flick the knife. Now, let's talk about this wild blade. So this helps, this is why it's unique as well, I should say. So you have the thumb ramp into the harpoon. That's typical. Swoops down, and here's where it kind of gets a little different. It kind of swoops up. So it's like a sine wave, if you will, if I exaggerate it. Right, like that's how that's going. Really unique there. Adds just cool flow to this knife. You've got the hand satin flat, the hand rub flat there, which actually ever so slightly extends all the way to the tip. You have the same on the other side. Beautiful. You can see there's his marking, the DL for David Lespect. Really beautiful. Then we come down here. I'm gonna get my nail on there. So sheep's footy type blade. And then you have here, what also makes it a bit unique is this recurve right here. Really cool. The sharpening choil here extends out beyond the plunge grind, so you have plenty of room for sharpening. The plunge grind is really cool. He always has it where it matches up with the blade scale, which many makers are doing. It looks beautiful. Everything's flat and comfortable there. Really, really nice. Lockup is solid. Reaching into there, super easy actually. It looks like maybe there's not enough room, but plenty of room to reach in, push that aside, and I mean, come on. That action is insane. The fact that you could middle finger flick it very easily is pretty sweet too. The rest of the knife, so you have his typical ergonomics where flat here and then right here is a transition point down. You have a bit of a tail here, which is very cool. And then one swoop up and the choil, which leads into matching this choil. You have these two milled lines matching the milled lines here. I believe that it starts out wider on this thinner one and gets thinner. You can see the same here. Just a nice little detail. So acid stonewash blade, it's RWL 34, his typical steel that he's going to be using, which I think is got to be one of the best steels to be using, honestly, for a custom maker. Being able to shape that blade and get it exactly where they want it. Fairly corrosion resistant, takes a polish real well, gorgeous. And it works well. The acid stonewash will protect it further from corrosion resistance. And like I said, if you use this knife, it doesn't look like it, in my opinion. Any scratches are hidden. Just a really cool knife. Everything's going to be T6, I believe, for the body and clip. I think this was T8. I can't recall. But yeah, it's from both sides. So typically he'll do a pressed pivot. This time it is on both sides, but it is custom. Everything he's doing on this knife is handmade. So he's doing it all, right? He's hardening the steel. He's getting it to this shape, sharpening, putting the grind on, all of that. He does a convex edge. He gets an unbelievably sharp edge, guys. So he does flat grinds and it comes down pretty darn thin. And yeah, this thing has been an amazing slicer. The tip is a bit thin, so not gonna want to do any hard poking tasks with this necessarily. Pretty cool how he does this. It's a flat on top, but it is a hand rub satin. The jimping that he does is phenomenal. So on a front flipper, I think it's important to always have good jimping, right? So it's not too sharp, right? And the way he's achieving that is by doing kind of like a triangular cut, if you will, leaving a flat top to the jimp. Pretty neat. So these are the ones that you're using this top section for deployment, and he works it all the way up around. So if I hold it here, you can see it really goes pretty high, so you could really get a grip kind of anywhere. I can just barely catch that one, right? Or I could go down here, but no matter where I go, it catches. It doesn't hurt at all. David's known for a lighter detent typically. It's a little heavier on this Framelock, which I think helps add phenomenal action. But he's still able to have perfectly drop shut blade. No blade play at all. Up, down, left, right. Crazy, crazy action. He's a master. So that is the main brunt that I wanted to go over. Another thing I wanted to share about this knife is just how it feels in hand. Holding his knives, so this is a 3 1/4 inch blade. It feels smaller though. For whatever reason, the balance point is just about here. So I would say like right about there is the balance point. But for whatever reason, it just feels smaller. His knives always feel smaller. I like his smaller blades typically, but yeah, his knives are just next level. There's an X factor to these knives. Now, these are flat scales. Typically, I'd like to see a contoured scale. I think it works because this is a very thin knife overall. So it gives you a little more traction to hold on to it. So I dig it. Really cool to see that. This knife in particular is from a friend. It was, I believe, from Blade Show 2022, the only Blade Show I attended. It's a really great knife overall. I have been in love with this one. Really cool. I'm glad to have been able to check it out. Overall weight is pretty good. It feels like it's not bad. He doesn't mill his out because he is doing this by hand. But let's do a quick size comparison for you guys. So another Framelock knife. This is the Mini Arius, a knife I have been loving. So you can see blade to blade, it's got about the 1/4 inch on it. And probably another 1/4 inch on the side, if not more. One that I always like for a blade or for knife comparisons. You could see lined up, same exact blade length, just about same exact overall length. Actually, I think this might be a phenomenal matchup size wise. If you know what a quiet carry is like at all, you know what this Lespect is like in terms of length, blade, and overall length. I think that'll be important to know. Some other cool comparisons. I thought it would be neat to show you some different Lespects. So another 3.25 inch that I have currently is this guy. My 2022 purchase. One of my favorite knives to this day. Another knife. So I don't have a video of these ones just yet, but another Framelock, which I'm in love with currently. I'm probably going to say that about all of these knives. This is another Framelock. That's a 3-inch blade. One that everyone seems to love, myself included again. This is like somewhere under 3 inches, probably like 2.71-ish inches. This is probably 2.7 inches. I think it's just shy. So that's the full what I happen to have on me currently in terms of David Lespect knives. They're really great knives, guys. I can't say much more about them in terms of how much I love them without just sounding like a broken record. They all have phenomenal action. The bigger guys are completely fall shut because as soon as you add any weight, can't help but fall shut. This other Framelock is nuts. This is a special one, obviously with the Hamon and dyed wood scales. Crazy. David Lespect, I mean, guys, if you're into customs and you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's on Instagram, Knives David Lespect. is his Instagram, all included in the description as well as the pinned comment. He's a phenomenal maker. You can really only get his knives essentially through Lotto, sometimes on his Instagram, sometimes at shows. He'll do 1 or 2 auction pieces, and then otherwise they're lottery. He likes to do, rather than a first come first serve where he'll run out of knives immediately because people that are in the know want his knives pretty bad, instead of having people wait outside and, you know, push and shove to get to his table first, he allows everyone to enter the lottery, so that way everyone's got a fair shot at his knives. Really cool of him. I actually talked to him about that. Pretty cool of him to have that reasoning behind it, right? Like, so he's clearly thought it through. I don't want to say like one person's way is better than another person's way. I just like the fact that he's given it thought. He's given it that time of day. On that matter, he's a super down-to-earth kind of guy. If you have a chance to check him out, he's typically at Blade Show. I know he's planning to be there again. Check his table out, guys. Check his knives out. Every once in a while, you'll see them up for sale on the secondary, in the Facebook groups. Everyone that collects his knives have genuinely been pretty cool. So, yeah, check him out. Hope you've enjoyed the content. I'll have some overviews on his other knives down the road. Till then, guys, take care.